and we're going to go over the basic features of a skiving machine. Now, what does a skiver do? The skiver skives. So, for example, we've got edge work, which is primarily what these machines are designed to do. This one is a great example. We're just taking a piece and we're thinning it out here on the edge. That allows you to do a couple of things. If you're putting seams together, you combine your materials, your layers, and it doesn't add a lot of bulk because you've thinned it out without sacrificing strength in your seam. That's a primary purpose. You can also take that edge and roll it over. Give yourself a nice top grain look. You can also take and split with a skiving machine. So you can take thicker pieces and then thin them down to thinner pieces. And you've got a certain limitation on the machine. Practically speaking, up to 2 inches wide you can work. So whether that is going to be a taper, a skive, or you can level that foot out and do a split, that is your working range. Now, some people choose to try to use this as a splitting machine. They're skivers first, splitters second. If you're patient and you've got some good hands, you might be able to get an even split across a wide piece. But primarily use these machines for skiving. That's what they're designed for. Or in other words, edge work. Now, this is called a bottom feed machine because the only feed is in the bottom, and that is done through a feed wheel. The standard feed wheel is a stone. This stone is driven by a mechanism in the back. This particular model uses a variable speed gearhead motor to make that happen. And some of your more traditional models, like the traditional AV2, have a clutch mechanism that pulls power from the main motor. It independently engage and disengage the feed wheel at will. So the feed wheel spins and pulls the material into the knife. How does it make the cut? Well, it has to do with how that material is fed into the knife. So you've got material being fed across the stone, and the foot on top, which you see right here, holds the angle and the depth and makes it all happen. This foot is adjustable in both thickness. Here I can increase and decrease my thickness, so as I screw this down, it lowers it down and decreases the gap, making it a thinner cut. And then in the back I have an angle position with a lock behind it, so I can take and pitch my foot forward or back, depending if I want to take and do a skive that is at an angle or try to keep it level. And then I've got here to the side, I've got an edge guide that can bump up against my work, and that edge guide will give me control to limit how deep I go into the piece. Now, when I'm using this, this is to engage the mechanism and release the mechanism. So if I want to, first I'm going to do all my adjustment with it down, get my gap set like I want it, and then I do my skiving. And if I have a part that's difficult to get in, I can drop it in like so, and then let it pull into the knife. You don't have to use this. This is an option. You do raise and lower, similar to, if you're in the sewing world, similar to lifting the pressure foot to put material underneath, or you can just push it right on through. In production, you'll get comfortable with the machine and you'll let the material, you'll guide it right under the foot and it'll do the cut. So your foot controls the type of cut, the angle, the depth, etc. Your feed wheel holds position. Now in the book it talks about adjustments on that feed wheel. Generally speaking, you want that feed wheel concentric with the blade, and there are points on the side here that adjust the gap between the knife and the feed wheel, and then there's adjustments here on the side that adjust the angle of that feed stone. But again, you normally just put that in there, align it, and then lock it and run it. If you were to change your feed stone or maybe go to a different type, you would have to recalibrate that. But once you've got it set, you're good to go. As you use your machine, you've got a knife here that has to stay sharp. The operator is going to have to continually monitor this edge. And not only monitor the edge, but monitor the position. So, if you look up close, you'll see that this knife has a minimal gap between the side of the foot and the point of the knife. And we would say about 0.3 to 0.4 millimeters. And in the book it gives you a good range, depends on the thickness of the or the thickness of the leather you're working with. And that position is set by advancing this wheel here. So as I turn this, and it takes quite a bit to move it, it's a very fine adjustment. I'm pulling the knife away, or I can bring it in this direction. This knob controls the grindstone. I can bring my grindstone in by unscrewing it and make contact with a blade, let it grind, and then push it back in. In your toolkit, you got a variety of tools here. You got your Allen wrenches, you got your open-end wrenches, nice little oil can. Then you got some things that might not make sense. This guy, what does this do? This is simply a crank handle. You put this on the knife advance, and you could crank away on it and increase the gap pretty quick just by using that crank mechanism. You can also do it old school just by twisting it here, but when you got to change a knife, you got to move that blade a good ways away. This makes it much faster. Normally just use the knob. Let me show you when you open the door, you're going to use your wrench. There's a little catch pin, allows you to open it up, and then you can reach into where your stone is down here, loosen the nut, replace it. This guy is a dressing stick. This is for taking and dressing the inside of the bevel of your bevel knife. So as you sharpen that blade, it will grind only one side and it leaves a burr it rolls in. So you use this through accessing the door, open the door up, you'll reach in and rub this stick along the inside of the blade just to deburr it. And then this guy is a tool used for the ejector. Inside the bell knife is this little cup-shaped device, and that fits inside the bell, and its job is to deflect the trimmings back down the chute so they don't collect inside of the knife. This normally would be set a certain distance from the edge of the knife, and as that knife starts to shrink in size because you're grinding it away, you'll have to periodically push it back, and then when you change the knife you have to pull this out together. This is press fit, so all you got to do to adjust this, and your gap is roughly about a ½ inch from the tip of the knife. You're going to take and push it in with the tool or pull it out with the tool. It just presses in. So that's what that guy does. You've also got some different kinds of stones available. So here you see two different mounting styles. Depends on what your machine's set up for. This is your traditional. This is a 17.5 millimeter inside diameter, which fits Fortuna and FAV machines. Some of your other Italian models will have a 17 millimeter hole. And they come in different types of stone. This is what we call a porous stone. It's pink, it's a fine grit, but the pores allow it to clean out the dirt and the grime that collects on this surface. And then you've also got this guy here. This is not porous, it's a fine stone, but you notice it's got an insert on it. So you can use this stone in place of the standard nut, and you just twist it on by hand. There's another way to do it. You could also get coarser types of grit. The pink is a fine. You can get a red coarse, and the coarser grit grinds out a little heavier, doesn't get quite as dirty, because these stones will get dirty over time, and that's part of the general maintenance that the operators are going to have to keep track of. And not only sharpening the blade, but making sure the stone stays clean so it sharpens well. This is how you're going to adjust your presser foot. Here you see you've got your presser foot. This back screw adjusts the tilt of the foot, the angle in which it's going to skive. The spring returns it as you back your adjustment off, and then you can use this nut here to lock the adjustment once you get it into place where you like it. This is the depth gauge. You simply loosen this, adjust the depth in which the material is going to be fed into that skive. So if you want a skive that's a 1/2 inch or say 12 millimeters, you would adjust this until you get the skive where you want it, and then lock it down right there. On top of your machine, you've got a knob here, and this knob you would adjust as you screw it this way. It increases the distance down, or in other words, it shrinks the gap between. Let me pull this out of the way to show you. It increases the gap or decreases the gap between the feed stone and the foot. So that makes a thinner cut. And if I unscrew it, it makes a thicker cut. And then this knob is a quick release. If I need to put the material in, I can drop it back down with that, and again screw it down here till I get where I want. Now this is your wide foot. This is a 50 millimeter skive, which is the widest you can do on this machine. You can also get shorter foot, a shorter foot or different widths of feet, different styles of feet. Some feet will have rollers, some feet will just be stationary, some will have grooving capabilities. It all depends on the type of work you want to do. Now, you don't want to necessarily use one foot for all, because in this case it's very difficult to get to the back of the foot on a narrow skive. So it would be better to have a shorter foot, maybe a foot towards the front. That would allow you just to work this section, and you get more control over the angle if you use a narrower foot than if you use a wide foot. So wide foot for wide skives, narrow foot for narrow skives, and then just take a look at the accessories available. There's all kinds of jobs you can do with this machine. Down here, this is your sharpening stone, and as I illustrated, if you unscrew this, it brings the stone in closer to the knife until it makes contact. And then once you are in contact, it sharpens. This lever adjusts the feed roll tension. So I can pull it out to get more tension, or drop it back down for less tension. You know, probably number 2 or 3 is your typical position. This knob adjusts the position of the stone up and down. So I'm pulling on that knob, and as I adjust it, it adjusts the gap between that knife and the feed stone. When you put in a new stone, you might have to adjust your angle. And so this adjusts the angle right there of that guy. And you want that stone to be concentric with the knife. One other point of adjustment is on this cover, there is a cam mechanism. So if you find that this cover is rubbing against the knife, you'll see some, you'll hear it rubbing, you might see some marks on it there. You can actually adjust the cam here to lift that cover up so it's off the knife. Those are your basic adjustments. Let's go ahead and set it up now, and we'll do some skiving. Alright, let's get to work. I've got a variety of pieces of leather here, different kinds of skive, different consistencies, densities. I've got some stiffer leathers, got some softer leathers. I got some straps. I've got some weird shapes. So I'm going to illustrate functions and use of the machine now. So start off with sharp knife. This is the most important part. If you don't have a sharp knife, it's not going to cut. So you got to know how to sharpen the blade properly. Let's crank it up. We're going to make some noise. Now the blade, as you sharpen, maintain the gap as it indicates in the book. So I'm going to keep it about a business card right there. And that will maintain, for soft leather goods, a nice cut. When I'm sharpening, I'm going to engage the stone, and I'm going to back it off when I'm done. And to deburr the edge, because it's going to roll over a rough burr as it sharpens, I'm going to use this tool, and to do that, I'm going to reach in and watch where I put this. I'm going to bump it up just at the inside of the knife so that it rubs not on the point. I'm not hitting the point. I'm hitting right here on the edge and just cleaning the inside of the burr. So let's go ahead and crank it up. Turned off my feed. I've got my knife running and my grindstone. Bring my stone in. Ever so slowly until I hear it contact. There you go. And you'll see some sparks. Now I want some steady sparks. I don't need a whole lot. You can start seeing the sparks coming out right now. If I was doing a really heavy grind the first time, I might get sparking like this. A little hum's okay. Normally I just kind of let it get contact. Now if you look down, and even with the door closed, you can see the sparks happening. If you're not seeing sparks, probably because your stone's dirty. You hear it rubbing, but it's not doing anything. And in your toolkit, there's a little spur that allows you, the spur wheel, you can go in there and dress the surface of the stone. There's also a gray stick, just like this one. It's a wood handle with a gray stick. It's a coarser stone, and you can use that gray stone to dress the surface of the stone. When I say dressing, I'm cleaning off the dirty surface of the stone. I'm actually removing the bad surface with the tool, so you got nice, clean stone again to grind. Again, you want sparks when you grind. And even when you're sharpening, you're going to want to just listen and periodically increase that stone again for a couple reasons. First of all, the stone's going to wear, so it's going to get farther away. And second of all, your blade is going to start grinding out and it's going to change shape. So I've got to periodically come in here and just add a little bit more as it grinds out. And so this is for a first time grind. It could take a few minutes. A brand new blade, it's not unreal to spend 20-30 minutes grinding the blade out. So when you're just starting out for the and you're going to start the day, give it a minute or so on the grind, and then throughout the day periodically grind it out as you start seeing it get dull. And you'll notice it. You'll see on the back of the material lines, shiners, rub marks where it's just not cutting very clean because you got a dull blade. So now that I've ground for a while, turn off the stone. I reach in here. And I'm using the side of my dressing stick to deburr the inside. And you can see that I'm just getting that inside right there. I'm rubbing the edge of the blade, the inside edge, with this dressing stick. So let's see what it does now that I've got it sharp. I'm using the foot pedal control, which means the more I press it, the faster it goes. Alright, so I'll start with a coarser piece. Let's see what I've got here. Now I'm cutting, but not much, so I'm going to increase. Now, I got to be careful I don't touch my lower feet zone when I make this adjustment. So I'm going to bring my angle forward. Now I'm going to look at the side profile of my foot to get an idea what my angle's like. And right now I want to go for a level edge, so I'm looking for this foot to be balanced across the knife and stone. So I've set my angle there. Now I can adjust my gap here. Well, that came out really, really thin. I'll take that back a little bit. That's pretty thin right there. That's paper thin. I want a little bit too much. But you can see how clean it cut. Let me back that off some. Alright, I'm going to use this strap here. Let's go ahead and use this as a split. Just going to put it underneath. I can stop, start. Nice split all the way through. Piece of cake. Want to go a little thinner? Break it down a little bit. Let's see what she does. Alright, now this will happen periodically when I do a thin piece. I'm just skiving off a little bit. You do have the danger of having that material wrap around the feed roll. Now on a vacuum machine this is less of a problem. But just keep an eye on that, because this, when you have just a little bit of dust coming off, it can stick to the roll. One thing you can do to prevent that is use a rubber feed roll and a soft leather. It sticks less, or in some of the rolls you can get a scraper. Alright, now we've got a sample here that is a weird irregular shape. So let's see how our variable speed helps us out in something like this. So I'm going to get it start, and I stopped it. And I'm just running a very slow skive right now. Alright. Nice skive all the way through. And I've got an inside cut. Let's see what I can do here. Now that variable speed allows me to slow down so I can navigate that corner. Let's try it again. By using this pointed foot, this guide allows me to get inside those inside cuts really nice. But then when I have a nice straight pass, I get it started and then I just let it go. So if you got to go open it up, you can. Just give it a little gas. Same story here. Nice and slow to start with. Control all the way through. Look how uniform that cut is. Piece of cake. So that's the beauty of the variable speed. I've got the pedal to allow me to start and stop at will, or I can just open it all the way up and go super fast. Whatever's you're comfortable with. So the best thing to do with a machine like this is get some scrap, play with it until you're comfortable with the skiving. Maintain that edge, make sure that knife stays sharp, and read the book, make sure you understand what everything does. But get to cutting. Don't be afraid of it and have fun.